Welcome to Total Design Live. It's a podcast where real tabletop game designers, with a surprise set of design constraints, design a game right before your very ears. It's game design without a net, and it starts now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 1 of Total Design Live. I'm David Abelson.
And I'm Rosco Schock. Thanks for joining us. This episode, we're welcoming game designer Ashwin Kamath. Hey, Ashwin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us. Me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Thanks for agreeing to participate with this season's challenge. For those who may not have met you before, tell us a little bit about your game design background and what you've been up to recently.
Yeah, my game design background is pretty short. I started in about 2018 as I joined a then thought of as a game group, but it was actually a playtesting group. I was like, hey, where's the Catans and Cards Against Humanities? And they were like, hey, how about you try my to-be-soon named Cascadias and, the like that, and abandon all artichokes. I joined that playtesting group, and it was a call to action. I never knew how much I loved game design and the things that are about it other than just playing them. So here I was out of water, in water, alive with my community that I didn't know I needed. So then, started going regularly, weekly, just a block away from where I worked at the time. And long story short, I joined a mentorship program, found a mentor, turned to be a great friend. That friend turned into be a co-designer. We designed a game called The Wolves by Pandasaurus that launched in 2022. And since then, I've also worked at Funko, or formerly Funko Games, now dissolved completely, and did a lot of work there for about a year. And I've done some freelance stuff since. You haven't really heard of any of the games that come out that I've done or that I've worked on for freelance wise because they haven't come out yet. But soon I'll be able to kind of share a little bit more about them. But currently I'm working on a lot of games and not enough time in the day to do it.
That's awesome. Awesome. Sounds like you've been busy for the last 6 years.
Well, I could talk really fast with get it all out in a couple sentences here or there. But actually, I've been mostly not doing anything of the sort for the last couple of years outside of game design. My life has kind of been on a bit of a pause to just kind of focus all in on this and see if I can kind of exist in the space more than just like a one-hit, kind of wonder, or not even as successful as a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, before we dive into the episode, let me go over some rules with you, okay? You're going to be given 2 constraints. No. Okay, how about 2?
I'm listening.
All right, 2 constraints. You're going to be given 2 constraints. You're going to be asked to design as much of a game as you can in 45 minutes. One of those constraints is going to be fairly specific. It's intended to be kind of a starting anchor point for you. And the other constraint will be somewhat vague, sort of to give you a box to fit your game inside. And the constraints could be related to theme or mechanics. They might be components or game category or even player experience. Anything not specified by either myself or Rosco is considered available and open to your interpretation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool. We're mostly interested in your thought process, right? We want to know how you're going to approach the creative thinking of the design. We're not looking for a balanced game or rows in a spreadsheet. We're here to be a sounding board, but we're not going to help you design the game. Our goal is purely to help the audience better understand your creative process. So as we walk through this, once we give you the constraints, we'll walk you through a set of general questions and help you get sort of a train on the tracks. And then after that, it'll be up to you. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Rosco?
Awesome. So without further ado, here is your first constraint. So the first constraint is a component constraint. So it's numbers on cards, specifically the numbers 1 to 100. So one thing to be clear is your game doesn't have to be only cards. It can have more than 100 cards. It can have tokens. It can be a euro. It can be whatever you want. The one thing that we're looking for here is that the numbers on the cards have some meaningful role to play in the game. So the cards can have extra things, not just the numbers, but the numbers must be used as some decision space for the players. Okay, let's give you the second one. The second one is a theme constraint. David said it's going to be pretty vague. It's just the word home. So whatever home means to you, there's a lot of ways that could go. And we're going to kind of leave that up to you. So now, real quick, we're going to walk you through a couple questions to help get your creative juices flowing. I'm going to put them in the chat as well, so you'll see them there. So the first set are about the component, numbers on cards. So what game do you think of when you first think of this component?
Numbers on cards?
Yeah, like 1 to 100 numbers.
Oh, sure. I think of the game. I think of the game, The Mind. I think of the game, like trick-taking games. I think of bare bones, like type of numbers, cards. That's all that really matters. Fuji Flush. Yeah, these types of games.
Those typically come to mind. I think some of the other ones we've talked about with other participants. There's also some things that maybe not immediately obvious. So something like power grid, it's not to 100, but there's a large number of power plants, and the numbers are just used for sorting in the market. There's things like Racco, where you're trying to get numbers in some kind of sorted order. I know there's some that David usually brings up.
I don't know if you're familiar with Queen Domino. Backs of all those tiles are numbered like 1 to 50 or something like that. So that's sort of a similar use, where that's used to organize cards throughout the game. Shobu is a card game that uses numbers that are, I think they're pretty close to 1 to 100, and they're used for a bidding process within the game. So that's very similar to what you might do in a trick-taking scenario. Yeah, those are all good examples to get us started.
Yeah, so I'll just do another question. We'll just kind of keep the info flowing here. I'm going to skip the next one, but we'll go to what game uses this component poorly, or is this component prone to some kind of pitfalls or like gotchas? Does anything come to mind that way?
When the font is hard to read, when the graphics don't kind of match the usability of the component. So you're saying cards and numbers. I'm not thinking of tiles. I'm not thinking of boards or anything, but maybe I should when I'm doing this. But sometimes you have an 8-point font on a tile that you need to know exactly how much to do. So like as silly as this sounds, like a Brass Birmingham, where you flip a tile, how much do I move up or down, or how much do I advance? This number matters. And while you have a reference on your like player board or warehouse you have in front of you, you have to also like get up and look, and sometimes the heuristic of a tile blocking the number, itself is like it's a fault, not of the design, not of the player, but of like the concept of having a number on a board like feet away from you, and you having to look at. So it has to be visible, has to be like clear, has to be like why it matters needs to be pronounced. Otherwise, why have it? Yep. Games that fail with this, I don't know if I'm gonna like bag on a game or anything, but I'll have to probably think on that a little bit more. But spitting off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything that does it poorly. But just like if I have to squint, if I have to look harder than normal to just understand the card. And then if there's so much more on the card, like what's the card's worth? Could it have been something else, not a card?
Right, that makes a lot of sense. So I think we've got pretty far with the discussion about component. But is there one more thing, Rosco?
Yeah. Let me do one more here. Yeah, and to be clear, like these questions are just meant to like kind of get your brain bouncing around.
Oh.
There's no right answer.
I will be honest with you. These questions these actions are taking away from me kind of thinking about what I need to do or what I would like to do. Because like
okay,
just like being real with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, these are here. Yeah. If you would rather just jump in, we can just let you jump in.
No, it's cool. What's no. What's the next question?
Let's actually switch for a second and talk about the theme. Let's just ask 1 or 2 questions about theme and then leave it open and see where you head with it. How's that sound?
Oh, yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, so when you think of this theme, this home, what's the first thing that makes you think of?
Sure. I think of family. I think of literal hearth, a fireplace. I think of warmth. I think of something that's near to you. I think of something that you go to. I think of a place that you long for, or just comfort and love and warmth, and that's what I'm thinking of. But I'm also thinking of like Goldilocks, or I'm also thinking of like fairy tales where like what is it, Red Riding Hood or something, where she's like going home, or like I don't remember the description or like the details of them, but like what I mean, things like that are just popping in my head right now.
Yes, I like it. So that kind of leads me to this other question of, does the theme push you towards a specific weight or type of experience that sort of is a direction you're already thinking of, or you're not quite there yet?
Okay, cool. Interesting. So back to your other question of like numbers and cards games that do it well or not well. There was a game that was called Brian Boru that I thought did an exceptional job of having a number just being super clear and loud and pronounced on very oversized cards just so they can fit the art that you would want to see on, and why it matters is that it's a trick-taking game, but also there's like so much more that goes on in the game, and it just fit the theme and kind of how the cards wanted to be preceded or perceived. When I think of the word home, when I think of trick taking, I think of thinky decisions. I think of long weighted decisions and like kind of careful, kind of gotcha moments, and or take that moments. And but then I also think of the game and the mind, and like we were talking about some other games, and those are party or light complexity games. So it's kind of the numbers on cards are kind of like a wide range, but I would think it sides with lighter decisions. So then your decision is more with your eyes up, looking at your players and looking at the board state, and not necessarily like, what can I, do face down, heads down on my own. And then I think of home. How does that fit into all of this? I think home fits in all sorts of categories. You can think of like space. You can think of negotiation and like, can I do a pickup and delivery? Can I do it's like a race. Like I go out and I come back. I'm thinking of all sorts of things. So like likewise, I think it's also fitting in wide range. Now I'm thinking of just like randomly, because I was on Kickstarter earlier today, thinking of like the games that are lightweight, family weight, presented, in a cheerful way. They lean lighter and your experience is more immersive because of art and colorful text that draws you into the rubber components and things like that, as opposed to maybe home being like home base of a war camp, and you're rolling not just dice, but you're drawing chits out of a bag, and not just chits out of a bag, but you're, literally throwing spears at your opponent because you're LARPing. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I'm going to say, let's lean lighter. That's where my head is at least.
Okay, that sounds great. And it sounds like you really fleshed through that really, really well. But I think we're at the point now, Rosco, would you agree we're sort of ready to let him loose?
Yeah, and I think if you get stuck, there's some extra questions there in the chat. They're just a question you can read out loud and kind of talk yourself through. But I think we'll just step back and let you have at it.
Okay, cool.
So best of luck. Your 45 minutes begins now.
Yep. So how I design everyone at home is I design silently with food in my belly, and I drink really loud, and I listen to rap music, and I sketch. So it's a very visual, ambient experience. I turn on the mood lighting, and so you're not seeing any of that. What you get to hear is me thinking and me kind of loud typing on my keyboard with my clickety-clacks mechanical keyboard. But I will say, the first things that I want to avoid are the things that I kind of design normally, because this is kind of an exercise for me, as much as it is for you guys to learn and listen to me, whatever I am saying. But I do a lot of like trick-taking adjacent or card forward games. So 1 through 100 is maybe not the denominations that I go for in games, but and also a theme like home. Very interesting. I've designed a game already that I'm like, actively pitching that has this theme in it. So I don't know if that was like calculated or not, but it's okay. I'm thinking of words that I've already kind of said out loud. And what I will do typically for those at home is I would go to a spreadsheet and I will open up Photoshop, Illustrator, or Google Slides, and I will just sketch and I will draw. And just Rosco, and I don't have your cameras up, so like the question or the chat or the Zen, whatever we're using, I don't have in front of me. So maybe if you find a moment to interject and say the question, or then I will like use that, and answer and respond to that. But I don't have that because I have my screens that I would normally use. I only have one monitor as well. Maybe I should upgrade my prototyping, brainstorming kind of weaponry or, holster, but I currently just don't have that. I also love working as a co-designer where I have not just a springboard, but, a nest of people all around me just like shouting ideas. I like using big, large tools like a marker and a whiteboard and scribble and erase and be really rough and dirty and scrappy with. Doing this audially is kind of remarkable. Never thought of doing it like this. Never thought of recording my thoughts and listening to them back until recently, where I chatted with I'm also not doing anything that you're asking me to do. I'm just talking. I meet up with game designers frequently one game designer that I meet up with virtually has said, hey, what about you just kind of do a walk and record your thoughts while you walk? And I need to walk. I just need to walk a lot these days. And I haven't been doing much of that. But when I do, I actually put a recorder on my phone and I kind of do a bit of a multitasking. I'm never not designing. I'm never like when I'm in the shower, when I'm cooking, I have a million thoughts. And so it's really crazy. It's really scary sometimes. And when I'm like in social situations, sometimes I don't even know how to respond because I'm thinking of a game design, Focusing on this, I have a spreadsheet. Focusing on this, I have a blank canvas. You say cards, you say numbers, you say 1 through 100, you say home. I'm thinking of overlapping numbers. I'm thinking of numbers that matter when they're stitched between. I'm thinking of numbers that matter that will kind of create a fuse or a fusion or a path or lend itself to like a set. And then the set is kind of like, am I building bricks for a house? Am I really literally going with the word association? I'm an architect by day trade, so I could kind of like do a lot with this in this theme. But 1 through 100, I've always thought of 1 through 100 as kind of like let me just throw a bunch of cards and not think about it. But let me see if I can kind of sketch or kind of think about things. Something that I do also is I go on Board Game Geek and I look at games that have 1 through 100. Games that have cards with various numbers or higher denominations. I'm not going to do that here because that's just going to be boring. And I'm also very visually in Excel. I kind of like highlight cells. I make them colors. I even make them like little shapes. And I like, it's just how I phrase and how I tweak the language that I'm using to prescribe whatever mechanic that suits the mood at the time of day. One thing that I'll say is kind of something that I've been doing a lot more of is journaling, sketching, and dating and timestamping everything. So everything has like a snapshot. I feel like I'm still just chatting and not doing anything, but I'm catching myself. So
let me help you with that just a little bit. Let's circle back. You came up with some great paths that you could go down that started with the theme. If we could sort of maybe help you settle on a theme direction that you want to head in, maybe that will help you to start focusing on moving forward with connecting the 100 cards to something within that theme.
I'm ignoring what you said because, you're having a conversation with me, but I'm thinking of the game design. So sorry, my friend. I'm thinking of, can I rip these cards? Can I make a destructive game? Can I make a legacy game? Can I splay these cards or can I overlap these cards? I'm going to go and lock in the word splay. I don't think I see a whole lot of games where they splay cards in a way where maybe the 1 digit or the 100 digit, like the 100th digit or whatever matters in a splay. So let's look into that. And then let's see, let's see how cards could be designed where splaying matters. I can divide them in half. I can divide them in thirds and be like, let's be stupid about it. So I'm going to design cards that have like numbers 1 through 100, and they are split into thirds because we don't see that ever. So these are basic poker-sized cards, but you know what? I'm going to make them tarot-sized cards because, for you guys at home, it's just all about learning here. We get to learn what tarot-sized cards are. So I'm going to Google. I don't know exactly. And I'm Googling Google. That's what I just did. And it went to a rule book of mine instead of actually going to Google. That's amazing. What am I doing? Tarot-sized card dimensions. This matters because I think prototyping matters in terms of like the componentry that you'll use. 2.75 inches by 4.75. That's awesome. That sounds exciting. I would never have done that on my normal 4.75. Awesome, because what this does mean is it gives you a lot of real estate for information that, hey, it's exciting to see at a glance, at a distance, or in someone's else's hand. Numbers and cards usually means like, okay, I have a card. Shaz. I had the dimensions linked. 4.75. There it is. That's a tarot-sized card, as you cannot see, but visually, it's amazing. And it's a rectangle, and I'm going to bevel those edges just to make it exciting. Tarot-sized cards are great for information from afar because you can have a big number, you can have a amount of text or a symbol, you can have art that's striking. All of that sounds like a thing that we are coveting, but we are also trying to splay cards, and splaying cards can go vertically or horizontally. Vertically would be quite a challenge because we have a 2.75 inch kind of divide. So that's like not even an inch per section. Let's go horizontal. Let's be stupid. So let's go horizontal tarot-sized cards, and we're gonna splay them in thirds. Don't do this at home. This is dangerous. 4.75 would be like 1.2 something, 1.5, 1.5. Well, like 1. 1.66. And so let's do that because that sounds fun. I'm going to draw a line that's 1.66 inches away from the edge. And I'm going to do this two times because, of course, in creating a card that's now 3 cards. We don't hold cards landscape style, so these cards are never going to be in our hand. Or we might have a private card that's in our hand. Ooh, that private card is our home card. Now we're aliens, and we're trying to get home. So the theme is now home, we're aliens, and we have cards. But you know what? That feels weird because it's kind of a theme I've already been using in a game. So we can't do that anymore, Ashwin. We got to switch it up. We got to change this up. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing, but that's what the card looks like. Is that correct? Uh-oh, I heard it.
So you said about dividing the cards into thirds, which is cool. Could you just explain, like, in what you're thinking there? Are you going to, like, 0 pad the numbers and put 1 in each thing? So, like, is 5 0 0 5? Is it just the 5 is in the center or on the right? Just how would you lay out 1 to 100 on cards that are split into thirds? So,
well, I don't know that answer, and that's kind of what I get to learn right now with you all. Is I'm thinking like maybe just thinking the first like third, which would be up for debate. Is it the right side or left side? However, these are going to be apparently splayed. Maybe it's the middle. Ooh, it's the middle. The middle has the number. Sometimes in card games, you want them to be indexed in all 4 corners or like one giant number in the middle. That's the sound effect of a number in the middle. That would probably be appropriate for a game where the cards are displayed. This is a display of a card, more so than like I have cards in hand. So I think if I were to divide this card in a third, which into 3 thirds, what? I'm dividing it into thirds. I'm putting the number in the middle because 1 through 100. Oh, why are we limiting ourselves to just the middle? Why not have, this is kind of fun, Rosco. I'm not going to lie. I don't do this. Why not have some cards have cards on the left, some have numbers on the right, and majority have cards in the middle, numbers in the middle. All right, so what I'm doing is I have this like number in my hand, and the hand is landscape formatted or something, and the card has like some goals on it, and it's like, oh, can't be next to blue, because of course, let's just go instinctively to color and number and maybe an icon here or there, because that's the first thing that I think of. Maybe there's text later, but I won't get there. This card can't be next to blue. It's also, let's say it's my private card is the number 7, right? So it needs to be next to, because I said this 25 minutes ago, stitched or overlapped or something about like it has to be in sequence or consecutive. You know, like that's what we do with cards. So then I don't think about anything other than that nonsense. That's what I'll do. So I have this private card. Everyone has a private card. They're trying to get home or they're trying to, So maybe these are like lanes. These are like, this is like a grid line. This is a cityscape. And now the theme is set in like Manhattan. And we're in middle of Manhattan, and we're trying to find our way home because, of course, we're on an island, or we could be in a park or something, and we're like, gerbils or something, or rodents or a fly. Yes, no. So, anyways, the theme is not relevant to me anymore. I'm just trying to figure out mechanically how we can stitch these together. So, okay, I have this card with numbers in the middle, sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right. And then colors scattered on these cards. Let's just say each card can have up to 3 colors. So maybe there could be a fully blue card, and it would have the 6 on it. Oh, if it does, then I can't score my 7 card privately because I need to be not next to blue. That's what it says on the card, right? But it wants to be next to a 6. It wants to be near an 8. That sounds weird, but it's what it is. Those are the rules of the game. So now I'm trying to, another rule is, let's see how people play with these cards. Okay, so all I need to do to win, I can win on my first turn, is play my card, and it has to fit all the rules. The rules are, does it resolve its text finitely? So I can just play it, I can play it on the microwave, and it would win because it's not next to any blue, it's next to a microwave. But it actually also has to be next to a card that says 6, and it has to be next to a card that says 8. So maybe that is the rule. To win, you have to be next to cards, your party cards, and then also no blue. So that's like if we were designing this game, this would be the mechanic for that one player at that one time. Maybe there's a deck of cards that are all gold cards, so you can't like remember that is the card of someone's. All right, so we have a deck of cards that are gold cards, and we have a deck of cards that are 1 through 100. Maybe there's some overlapping numbers. Of course, there has to be. Why not? Let's make this a 1,000 card game, because that's what publishers love. And we're going to make this 1,000 cards of 1 through 100 and several suits, and all the permutations of suits. So, and suits maybe being color for this. And so we can do blue, green. We can do Roy-G-Bit. We can do rainbow. Oh my gosh. Now we can do like a leprechaun. And a leprechaun just wants to like find his way into the rainbow. And it's a like Roy-G-Biv nonsense thing. Okay, I'm kind of interested into this. Am I designing this for next week, Rosco? So these tarot-sized cards have a really small leprechaun on them. That's the art. That's all you get. And then you get these 3 colors, up to 3 colors. So maybe there's like a big swatch of violet or orange. But I'm really into splaying. And maybe there's some splay rules or splay mechanics. And so if the number's in the middle, I'm taking the next card I'm playing with, right, would be covering that number. So now the 30 no longer exists. Is this a feels bad game? I'm just like covering up numbers and revealing other numbers? Am I splaying on the corners only so that 30 stays? Okay. So then the 30, like I have a 30 written in one of the cards. So one card has a 30 in the middle, and one card has like let's just say 77 in the middle. But these colors match. So if the colors match, you can overlap. If the colors don't match on either side, you can't use that card. All right, so let's say, because we don't have a hand and we don't have we haven't decided that we're doing like a market. Oh, but what if it's like a pot of gold and like we're leprechauning, rainbow, pot of gold, maybe pot of gold is home. And so now we're just like dancing on we're parading through the rainbow, trying to get home to the pot of gold. And we're trying to like find gold along the way on the rainbow to the gold. Or what do we do in the rainbow? What do leprechauns? I don't know where I'm going with this. Now I'm thinking of Lucky Charms though. All right, so like let's just go Lucky Charms, General Mills branded game IP. Don't at me. And we're doing where you're trying to avoid Tostios and you're trying to get the marshmallows. You're trying to get all the marshmallows and maybe home as kids. And it's like, okay, all the kids want is just to get fat and high of sugar. So give the kids what they need. It's just marshmallows. So these leprechauns are who you are. You are the leprechauns in this game. You're multiple leprechauns. You're not just one. You're a faction of leprechauns. You're the strong, buffed leprechauns. And maybe Joey Jojo is like the agile, warping leprechauns. And maybe, there's a teleporting, or no, that's warping. Maybe there's like a trickster leprechaun faction, and they lay traps. And now I'm thinking of Mario Kart and Rainbow Road. And it's okay, but that's getting away from what I'm trying to do here. Because what if I can't play this card on that card because of color or because of number? Well, I don't have a hand, as I said. I have this private card. Maybe there's a market. Maybe there's a deck that I just draw. I draw, play. And if I can't play, I play on another side of the rainbow. There's like double rainbow. Okay, so there's like multiple rainbows that can happen because this is just fantasy. It's not real life. So we can just like have 10 rainbows, and you're just trying to get to one pot of gold, but you could get into multiple pots of gold maybe. And maybe pots of gold are like worth their value of like numbers that are in the sequence. So maybe you're playing and splaying and delaying, rhyming words, to the pot of gold. By playing cards, and if you can't match color or number sequence, which seems really hard, by the way, you have to start another rainbow. So now there's another rainbow. And now this is making me think of 6 Nimmt, where you have, and that's a great example of a card game where 1 through 100, 105, actually, I think. You have multiple paths. Actually, this is very similar to 6 Nimmt, only we're splaying cards, but the splaying isn't really impactful right now. The splaying is just like, can I just play next to? So then maybe, I've heard a noise.
Yeah, so let me just ask you one question, Ashwin.
No.
Like, as you're describing this so far, do you think this is leaning more towards a cooperative game or a competitive game? Just curious.
I'm not there yet, and that's not an answer for you, but I'm going to try to fake it. So for the audience at home, this is going to be now a cooperative games. Most games that I think of and design and want to work on are competitive, but this feels like a cooperative game because maybe I have limited communication. Maybe I can't talk about the leprechaun that I have and what it needs and what its needs are. And maybe my faction is also even kind of under wraps. And I can only like pop a mallow, which is a marshmallow, and then use my ability. So I'm like going around the paths of rainbows, collecting marshmallows, mallows. I consume mallow, and I can use the mallow power in the rainbow. Rosco, what are you making me say out loud? This is crazy. And I can now like hop. I can hop rainbows, or I can traverse rainbows. Okay, now I'm thinking that this has legs, and not just legs, but meeples. We're wooden meeples. And our leprechauns are actual, like, oh, why stop at wooden? Can't they just be rubbery and glass and plastic? And yep, we're doing that. We're doing like very, very highly detailed, really small micro meeples that were, in a fire, kilned and hammered out to perfection. These these leprechauns are drawn, but the themes are home and the components are cards and numbers. So the leprechauns can't be the star of the show. It has to be cards. So it's cards. Maybe there's some sort of like face down, face up element to this game. And maybe there's like what do rainbows do? They kind of emerge after, like rain. Maybe do they cast shadows? Probably. Do they you know what I'm saying? Do they like they're bookended, Are they? So maybe there's like rainbows can only exist like after the rain, and like the cards are face down, and that indicates like sunny day or something. It's like because
hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but I wonder if we took just a second here, because we're a little more than halfway. If we just took a second and maybe thought about the goal of the game, and then you could maybe connect a goal of the game with where you are right now and fill in all the blanks, because your hype is absolutely second to none.
Well, if there's anything that anyone needs to know about me is I'm a good hype man. Fifth wheel, call me. I will say goals of games. I don't actually care that you win, lose, banana. I don't care if you score the most points or not. I want you to have a fantastic effing time. So what sparks joy? What makes your experience meaningful, memorable? I heard the term regrets recently from someone in this room. Will you make mistakes? Can you recover from mistakes? And the goal of the game is can you, right? Like, can that happen? Can you have a memory? Can you laugh with your friend or peer or meet up stranger because they accepted the Thursday night, at a pub group? So can I play this game with anyone? Can I play this with my grandma? Can we have a good time? Can we bond over wine and food? Or must we be silent and deadly playing this game? Goal of the game. That I never think of end game conditions. I never think of how do you win in this game? Getting each player home. Each leprechaun has to go home. What is home? We've established in this exercise that home apparently is a pot of gold. All these leprechauns have to go to a pot of gold. And where are they? They're like in Manhattan. Remember, we're tying all these together. We're in Manhattan. It's raining. Luckily, they emerged from wherever they were, burrowed, or in the burrows. Oh, that's almost too good. And they rise, and they're like, oh, this rainbow is emerging. So, or they can kind of like call on to their leprechaun gods and say, hey, rainbow's coming. We get to hop into it and jump into whatever the rainbow road leads them home. Okay, so I like the idea of leprechaun factions. So the theme, and I'm now writing for the first time, leprechaun. I don't know how to spell the lepers. Nope. Leo. L's. L factions reigning. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying the word trees as they came to mind. And pot of gold, and we're going to call it Pog. Shout out to Pogs. L factions, it's raining. There's trees. Pot of gold and rainbow. All right, let's retrace. Oh, Manhattan. I'm going to call it Manny Island.
You were saying before the boroughs, because I was thinking the same joke, that I assume all the leprechauns come from Staten Island, and that's just like a thing. And so there's like rainbows from Staten Island, because that seems to make sense.
I mean, Rosco, I don't know. This has legs. I don't want this to just be a 45-minute exercise brain dump, and then it's like, we're done. Are we co-designing? Is this just me talking at you about how this game is going to be? I'm not sure, because this is unfair if this is like is in the ether for someone else to take. This is $1 million idea, guaranteed. Playing cards has never been done in a way where it's fun for people who are not medium weight gamers, heavyweight gamers. Playing cards doesn't often appear as a mechanic because it's like weird to tuck, weird to put on top of and cover information. But we've seen some games kind of do splaying in a way where you're overlapping or you're stitching or you're, you know what I mean? So, but those are like icons or those are like graphics or those are like, can you match the maze? So this is all about lines, just straight lines. Let's just have 7 lines. We'll have 7 lines. Okay, 7 lines. Roy G. Biv. We have our 7 lanes of access to gold, and all of our leprechauns can do sort of all sorts of nonsense. All lines have to match the following criteria to win. Because you asked me, how do we win in games? Besides destroying your opponent by taking from them for all they're worth, you need the Roy G. Biv. Red, orange, yellow. And if you ever play like a blue card in a red zone, tisk, lose a card, lose your turn, add more rain, so delaying your journey to gold. But okay, so yeah, maybe you punish them for the decisions they make, but you don't make it too restrictive that they can't even play on their turn. So the powers that be, which are you and me, we will say that the rules are play anywhere. Play whatever the F you want. If you don't match a color, if you don't match a number, you lose a card. You lose 2 cards. From where? From that 1,000 card deck. And that's your lifeline in the game. So once that deck runs out, the game's over. How do you win? You get to the line. You get the line as long and as consecutive as you can in a single color. Per color, Roy G. Biv. So Roy G. Biv, Leprechauns, gold. The gold... And then there might be some sort of game kind of combating you anyways. This feels really light. This feels really low complexity. So I would want to spice things up considerably because that's who I am. It's going to be hard because you're going to draw a couple cards and you have to play with what you have. And you're going to make mistakes. Or you're going to have to start a new column, right? And then maybe if you start an 8th column, are we Pac-Manning where you go back to the start? Or do you lose progress and it's like Oig Berver, right? So it doesn't start with R. It starts with O, and then it's like Oig Biv R, G Biv Roy. So maybe but that sounds crazy for table space. So length.
You're going to need to build a conveyor belt into the design.
Conveyor belt. But that's not enhancing theme. Whoever said that? God? Was that God? Yeah, I have to find a new deity. But conveyor belts and tarot card splaying does fit. So then am I switching fighting stances here? Normally, I would take 5.5 weeks to just think on something else instead. Because this is the first time I'm at an impasse where I don't know if I should pivot theme. Should I open a new tab on my spreadsheet and go in a completely different direction? Because, yeah, maybe it needs some tweaks to how the cards wrap. There's a game that I really enjoy called Subastral. It's a small game and just cards. And it does actually this... okay, I don't want to talk about a card game. Sorry. Splaying.
You're allowed.
Splaying. Could I splay in multiple directions? Are we getting wet and wild here? Are we not just... Are we 9 axis? We have 3 sections horizontally. What if we have 2 sections vertically? Nope, that doesn't even sound like it would work. So, okay.
What if your sections weren't symmetrical? For instance, what if there was a major part of the card and a minor part of the card?
Yeah. So 2/3, 1/3.
Maybe. Then you get to use your rule of thirds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the rule of thirds will come and go or come into this and be meaningful. Right now, my head is kind of just not in that headspace for it to kind of find meaning because I think I'm trying to find start-end conditions. Let's rehash this from the top. Leprechauns. Everyone has a leprechaun. Everyone has a leprechaun faction. Everyone's faction is kind of pseudo-hidden to everyone. We can do something really fun and fantastic, but it has to be based off of the fact that we collect a certain amount of mallows to spend them to traverse through this road that is the Rainbow Road over Staten Island to a pot of gold. The pot of gold is going to be kind of throwing gold our way, and the gold might even be conveying down our Rainbow Road itself. Maybe there's I don't know, what's that 8-bit game where you're maybe there's a piece of gold that kind of comes down a card and the cards are coming to you. Oh, interesting. So now the cards are coming to you as opposed to you going to the gold, or you going to you playing the cards. You're on a 20 and you need to get to 21, maybe let's just kind of say you need to get to the same digit. It's either, let's say you're on a card number 27. You could either get to a 7 or any card with a 7, any card with a 2. Let's say your card also says if forward is red, backwards is green. So if you want to go backwards, you can go to any green. If you want to go forwards, you can go to any red. But maybe you can only go in your row or one space in front of you. The cards are coming at you. You can manipulate the cards by moving the cards. Because we're leprechauns, we move cards. Maybe I can move cards, add cards, splay cards, add, splay, move, convey. All right, conveying is finding its way in right now. And convey sounds like it could be like a lost condition where like, like if you think about like you have like a sprinkler or like a water fountain that kind of does this like arc, and then you turn the water off and it kind of like, so it's like maybe like the rainbow kind of fades. And we're like, oh no, there's a gap in the rainbow to the gold and we need to plug the holes in. We need to put some duct tape on those holes. So the tarot cards can kind of like come back in and fill the rainbow, which sounds kind of fun. But like there could be like the win condition is like, how well did you do? Did you get all the rainbow colors into the pot of gold? Do you have any gaps in your rainbow? Did any faction not get there? How much mallow did you consume? How many colors are, in the wrong spots? There could be some sort of goals that are like revealed top of round or top of, game. Maybe you don't have any hidden information, like in terms of like your private number that I thought of. Maybe it's more of like I have a card that I can play at any time that no one knows that I have, which sounds kind of fun. Maybe I have 2 cards in front of me face up and 1 card in front of me face down. And that's what my play pattern is on my turn. If we can visualize this board, let's just pretend it's like a racetrack because it's so massive. 100 meters, and we're playing these tarot-sized cards. We need 100 meters for tarot-sized cards. So this 100 meter table, by the way, I would also probably be like in sort of digital platform and like sketching things out as I talk like this. We play a card from one of the 3 that I have. 2 face up, 1 face down. If I play the face down card, I draw the next card and I bring it to my hand face down. The other 2 cards are face up and they're just like public information. So now I can riff off of what other people have. And maybe my faction says, if I take from Joey Jojo's stash or Joey Jojo's cards, I can like do some portaling, warping, manipulating of cards. If I take from mine, suffer the consequences, right? That's my like idea for a power and a detriment. Every faction has that, like a weakness and a strength. Okay, that sounds awesome, honestly. So it's kind of like a really light world building game, dungeon crawling, multiple Kickstarters, CMON, get at me, miniatures, crunchy decisions in a 5 to 10 hour time stamp per session, per rainbow. No, per Roy. You have to come back the next day for a GBIV. I feel like I've actually exhausted myself in terms of what I would want to do now. Next would be I would want to get very rough with it. I'll say it for the virality of the show. I want to get rough and dirty with it. I want to play with cards, splay them, see what's fun, move meeples, move cubes, move things on cards, have some sort of like, Spirit Island, like cooperative nature. The world is collapsing in front of us. Or the rainbow is dissolving in front of us. How do we combat that? Can we lose a card permanently? Can we lose any card and like plug that hole of the rainbow? Did we get everyone advancing the start of the game to the next row? If we don't, maybe we have to like suffer some consequence. So there's like all sorts of like, you can't advance too far in front of other leprechauns because we're leprechauns. Leprechauns are they're jolly and they hold their hands and they don't depart. Sprint ahead. Unless you're the Sprint Ahead faction, and the Sprint Ahead faction reveals themselves, and then they can jump 2 steps further and plugs that hole. That sounds kind of fun. Maybe you can only plug holes where you're next to adjacent or next to. So game is kind of in a conveyor belt, kind of throwing cards at you. You're splaying cards to stall the conveying. You're trying to also traverse. So it's like going up a treadmill the wrong way, or like going up the escalator where the stairs are going down and you're going up, right? So like the game is going at you, coming towards you, and you're going towards the goal. That sounds really interesting. And so you need to do more than what the game is combating to even get ahead in the game, or even have a breather. I would hate to have this be like real time. I would hate to have this be like, ooh, roll some dice and see what happens. So components are just numbers on cards that are tarot-sized cards with gorgeous arts by Beth Sobel. And it's like 1 through 100, maybe some overlapping cards, maybe some thirds. You talked about thirds, so maybe there's like 2/3, 1/3. Maybe there's some like, ooh, I have a mini card, and the mini card is like just 1/3 of a tarot-sized card, and I can like, and now that 30 is now a 42. I can change the number. That sounds kind of fun. And all it is to get home. All we want to do is go home. And ain't that the truth? I have 3 minutes left, and I feel like ordering some Chipotle. I'm still master of my domain, my friend. I don't need anything. I have actually, in my design journey, I have definitely spiraled in the, I think, correct mindset where getting really, really rough, awful-looking prototypes, but they're legible and they can be played is far better than a final-looking prototype or final version next to about to launch on Kickstarter, because you're gonna completely sedate them with visual. You're going to completely overwhelm them with text and final details. When they're scrappy, their expectations are met. Their expectations are this game's gonna suck, right? So this game is gonna suck until it doesn't suck, and when it doesn't suck, I'm going to turn that pixelation from 75 pixels per inch to 300, or 150 at least, the bare minimum. And, add a little bit of art or add a little bit of style or texture. Yeah. And to get right to it, like, I love it when I have a hard time solo playtesting games. I have a hard time sitting down by myself and playing things. So I'm going to immediately, after this, prototype this, go to my game jam group that meets Wednesday, which is conveniently tomorrow, and I'll play this there. Like, that's what I would do. Every time I get, it's how can I schedule a next playtest with people so that I can see how people interact with whatever the hell I'm thinking about making fun. Because I know what I would want to do as fun, but what do people respond to? And if they respond to, ooh, the conveying is really fun, ooh, guess what I'm going to do? The next playtest, I'm going to do more conveying. I think the conveying is really tight and hard, and I change it, and it's like now it's simple and easy, and then they don't respond to the conveying. Well, that sucks. Like, I didn't get to see a feedback loop on the conveying belt, because I'm solo playtesting and what I would want. It doesn't matter. I love playtesting with strangers, with kids, with pickup groups, like not just at the basketball court, but like on your FLG or your friendly local game store meetups, and just like see what people respond to. And I try to be very aggressive about playtesting. But sometimes you can get kind of swallow in your pride of, ooh, this doesn't look like the best, or this was not going to attract anyone to sit down, or, so there's like this weird, like, in-between zone that you're trying to need to get to. But I don't know, like I've heard on a podcast recently, like, not this one, of course, but you're testing mechanics and in-game components with game designers to see if it's like worth the time. Then you test with the public to see if it's, if it's good. And so
that's pretty much the process for you. That makes a lot of sense. So we've gotten to the point where you can take a breath because you're out of time. And now it's time for the awesome round of end questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Are you feeling okay?
Am I okay for the awesome round of end questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm feeling pretty mid about it, actually.
All right. Well, let's start with an easy one then. Did you have fun?
No. Did you?
I did. It was a lot of fun for me. What did you not find fun?
Well, I will say that this is the very first time I've been like, what is this, like live journaling?
Yes.
I've never done this whatsoever. I have done like a game jam with a friend or two, and that has kind of procured something, I would say a similar, but not at all the same as this. I felt like I needed to perform and I needed to be theatrical, or I needed to be, I felt like I needed to like act the part of a game designer thinking through, but not feeling like I'm dull, dry, and boring, because why would someone play to that? So that was in my head all through going through all this.
We're not relaxed.
But I'm never relaxed, my friend.
Okay.
I opened the podcast by saying I take poops and I design. I think of games design everywhere I go. So I'm never actually relaxed. When I'm relaxed, I'm panicking that I'm like something is not right.
Okay, fair. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course. I mean, it's my show now, my friend. Like you asked me the question, but no, I'm just kidding. But what I do is I go pretty hard quickly with versioning. So I will even A, B, C, D test the same ideas. I don't go at a snail's pace in terms of, let's tweak a number by 1 or 2, like the theme or the componentry said, like 1 through 100. I'll go in to various levels of amplitude to see what is fun and drives the message that I'm hopefully conveying or understanding, and maybe unearth something that I wasn't even expecting.
So, Ashwin, is there anything you're working on right now that you're super excited about?
Well, let me just tell you about something that I'm excited about that's been in stores for a little bit now that I've worked on. I put my whole heart into, and it's not me like plugging it right now. It's not it at all. It's actually kind of in part to answer David's question a little bit ago. So I'm going to show you viewers at home a game I worked on. This is just like a booster pack of a game called Star Wars Rivals, a game that I designed with some friends, peers at Funko Games. And it was like, it took 1,000 twisted turns, right? The core time I spent on designing this game, it was kind of like a coin dropping game where I'm putting a coin in a slot and I don't even know what the result is because it's in a little like cavity, and I reveal coin and it tells me what it is. So 1 or a 2 or 1 or a 3, like I'm flipping a coin, but I don't know the result. That's what that game was in a lot of ways. It was like paper, rock, scissors, coin. 2.5 weeks before the due date, we had a play test with a kid, and it just looked like this kid wasn't going to have any fun. And we completely reformatted this game to a more mature audience, not just 6 and up. What about 8 and up? They can read cards, they can read text, they can play actions, they can play mind games. And that's what this game became. And we had this 2.5 week, 3 week period where we just blitzed through this game. All the mechanics changed. All the powers of cards of, Kylo Ren to, it doesn't matter what I'm name dropping here. I'm just saying this game is a love child of the process. And so I will always love the process more than the end result. So when you're asking me about sharing kind of things that I'm working on right now, of course, I'll be sharing all of the things I'm working on right now, any time of the day of the week. And it's the labor that you go into, the process you feel a lot of joy out of when you feel like a playtest gets that 10% better, or that, that mechanic that you just kind of like were experimenting with, like lands, I'm working on a game for another company. It came to me kind of in pieces. You could talk to people that that I know, and they were like, how is this a game? How did this get signed? I playtested it with them yesterday or recently, and they're like, I can't wait to get this game. I can't believe what you did with this game. That was remarkable. I'm not going to share any of like the name of whatever, but I'm working on a game that's loosely about collecting things in like a Libertalia fashion, where you're simultaneously revealing cards and resolving those cards. And it's been going really well. So I'm working on a couple of contracts for games with publishers. I'm working on my own games. I have a trick-taking game that's about you create the trick-taking game yourself. They're blank cards, and you create the trick-taking environment around you. I have a coin like flipping, bag drafting, or bag plucking trick-taking game where you have coins or poker chips, and they have values on either side or suits on either side, and you will like throw them into the pot, and you might be able to flip them, trade them in. Over time, Trump kind of gets introduced into the pot. That's really interesting, in my opinion. I'm working on a 2-player cooperative deduction game that I can't wait to get signed. It's a like home like theme with an alien and a human as the kind of the theme, kind of like the Arrival theme. The card gimmick is, it used to be Trick Taker, it no longer is, where cards are played face up and face down, or face up and face down. So one player knows all the information and is kind of like masterminding this whole thing or wordling this whole thing. And the other player is trying to like navigate the code or the message or whatever you're doing in this game to understand why the alien is here, as an example. I'm really loving the experience that I've crafted, or we have all like been a part of the journey of this game. And it's been really fun to take it along its ride. I'm working on some more, but yeah, sorry for being too long and verbose about it.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, obviously it's a lot of fun stuff that you're working on and some really interesting things. So as a segue to that, any upcoming conventions you'll be at, or can people connect with you online? Any social media, any information like that you want to get out there? People can check out these things you're working on?
I'm not like super active on socials, but you can check me out on Board Game Ghee, Ghee, like the butter, but just not the same. That's me. And the conventions that I'll be at. So this weekend I'll be going to Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle. I live in Seattle. Can't you tell? And then next week, I'm going to be at Dice Tower West playtesting and also demoing my game that I'm hopefully launching on Kickstarter. Whoops, I should have mentioned that game. Sorry, everyone. That game that I'm working on called Chicken Fried Dice is a remarkable, unique take on roll and writes. And I can't wait to see people's joy when they experience that game. I'm going to Unpub. Unpub is a kind of like a playtesting convention, which is like unheard of. How do you go to a convention where it's just playtesting prototypes? That's what it is. And it's amazing. It was the highlight of my year last year, so I have to go. Unfortunately, it's all the way in the East Coast. Boo, East Coast. So I'll be doing that. And then I'll be doing a design retreat at the end of the month with a bunch of friends in wine country in California. That's where I'll be. And then I'll be at Origins. And then I'll be at Gen Con. And I'll be at, I'm sorry. I can keep going. I keep talking. I feel like I need to. I'm sorry.
That sounds like, it sounds like you're you said it at the beginning of the episode. You're very, very involved in the industry. You're here, you're there, you're everywhere, playtesting and playtesting and playtesting, and it was really exciting to have you on the show with us. Hey, listeners, if you want to join in any discussion about this episode, this season, or if you'd like to participate in a future season, reach out to us online at Total Design Live on either Twitter or Blue Sky. That's it for this episode, but we hope you'll join us again soon for more game design without a net. Until next time, I'm David.
And I'm Rosco. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Total Design Live. Be sure to check out how other designers did this season with the same surprise design constraints. We hope this podcast will help inspire you in your own board game design journey and give you a peek behind the curtain about how other designers' creative process works. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We hope you'll come back and join us again for future episodes.